In a crowded city where noise never slept and dreams often did, there lived a young man named Daniel who believed that success belonged to the hardest worker in the room. Every morning at exactly 4:30 a.m., his alarm tore through the silence, and while the rest of the world slept, Daniel was already running through empty streets, reviewing notes in his head, preparing to outwork everyone he would meet that day. By 6 a.m., he was at his desk, and by 10 p.m., he was still there, eyes burning, body tired, but spirit stubborn. He took no shortcuts, no breaks, no excuses. He told himself every single day, if I just work harder than everyone else, I will win. And for a while, that belief kept him going. It gave him purpose. It made his sacrifices feel meaningful. But months turned into years, and something didn't feel right. Daniel noticed that people around him, people who arrived later, worked fewer hours, laughed more, rested more, were somehow moving ahead. Promotions passed him by like trains he was too late to catch. Opportunities slipped through his fingers no matter how tightly he tried to hold on. The most painful part wasn't the failure, it was the confusion. Late at night, staring at his reflection, he would whisper, "How? I'm doing everything right. So why am I still stuck?" His body grew weaker, his mind grew heavier, but his effort only increased. If hard work wasn't enough, then surely more hard work would fix it, or so he believed. One evening, after a long and draining 16-hour day, Daniel stepped outside his office building and collapsed onto a quiet bench. For the first time in years, he wasn't doing anything. No phone, no work, no planning, just silence. And in that silence, something unfamiliar crept in. Doubt. That was when an older man walked over and sat beside him. The man looked calm, almost untouched by the chaos of the city. He glanced at Daniel and said softly, "You look like a man fighting a war." Daniel gave a tired laugh and replied, "I'm not fighting a war. I'm working." The old man smiled gently and said, "That's what I meant." They sat in silence for a moment before the old man spoke again. "Tell me," he said, "if effort alone guaranteed success, would every laborer be a millionaire?" The question hit Daniel like a sudden storm. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He had never thought about it that way. "I work harder than anyone I know," Daniel finally said, almost defensively. "I don't doubt that," the old man replied. "But are you working on the right things?" That question didn't just challenge Daniel, it shook him. For years, he had been so focused on how hard he was pushing that he never stopped to ask if he was pushing in the right direction. The old man picked up a small stone and dropped it into a puddle nearby. Ripples spread across the surface. "Hard work is the force," he said, watching the water carefully. "Smart work is the direction. You can push as hard as you want, but if your direction is wrong, all you create is wasted energy." Daniel stared at the ripples as they faded, and in that moment, something inside him shifted. Not a loud realization, not a dramatic breakthrough, just a quiet, undeniable truth settling into his mind. He had been exhausting himself, climbing a ladder that might not even be leaning against the right wall. That night, everything changed, not because his life suddenly became easier, but because he started asking better questions. The next morning, for the first time in years, Daniel didn't wake up at 4:30 a.m. He woke up later, sat down with a notebook, and instead of planning how to work more, he planned how to work better. He asked himself what truly created results in his field, which skills actually mattered, and which tasks were just keeping him busy without moving him forward. The answers were uncomfortable, painfully honest. He realized that most of his effort had been going into things that looked productive but didn't truly matter. Daniel didn't stop working hard. He refined it. He focused on fewer things, but with greater intention. He stopped saying yes to everything and started protecting his time like it was valuable, because it was. He observed successful people not just for how much they worked, but for how they thought, how they decided, and how they prioritized. Slowly, he shifted from proving his effort to improving his results. And then, something remarkable happened. Within months, Daniel began achieving more while working fewer hours. His ideas started getting noticed. His work became sharper, more impactful. The same people who once overlooked him began to pay attention. And for the first time in a long time, he felt progress. Not just movement, but real progress. Opportunities came, and this time, he was ready. He earned a promotion, not because he worked himself to exhaustion, but because he finally understood how to create value. And standing there, looking back at the version of himself who thought suffering alone would lead to success, Daniel felt a quiet sense of clarity. Years later, when people came to him frustrated and said, "I'm working so hard, but nothing is changing," he would smile and say, "Hard work will take you far, but only smart work will take you where you actually want to go." The truth is simple, but powerful. Hard work without direction leads to exhaustion. Smart work without effort leads to illusion. But when you combine both, you become unstoppable. So as you move forward from this moment, don't just ask yourself how hard you can work. Ask yourself how wisely you can think. Because your life doesn't change when you do more. It changes when you do what matters most. And if this message speaks to you, subscribe for more stories that can transform the way you see your life.